Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Stuff We Play. Today we are going over a series that is very near and dear to my heart, or I guess a subset of a series. You see, I'm a huge Mega Man fan, but I never actually played the NES games as a kid because, well, the NES was before my time, to be quite frank. But I didn't even play any of the PS1 or SNES games. No, what I played were the Game Boy games, and the Game Boy Mega Man games were awesome. Let's get started. So how did I get into the Game Boy Mega Man games? Well, I actually didn't get into it till after the Game Boy Advance came out. For many years, GameStop still carried original Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, and often you could find them for pretty cheap. And that's where I came across this. This is Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge on the Game Boy. And what Dr. Wily's Revenge is you have 4 bosses for Mega Man 1, all of them except for Gutsman, Bombman. And then you have 4 of the bosses for Mega Man 2. And it's only 6 stages long, but it's hard as balls, and it's fantastic. Now, Mega Man Dr. Wily's Revenge originally came out in about July of 1991. However, I didn't play it till probably around 2004, 2005 or so. I loved it, though it kicked my ass. You see, this game is amazingly hard. I'd say it's harder than any of the NES games, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sure, there's only 6 stages, but honestly, you'll put just as much time into beating this game as you would into beating a console Mega Man game. So that was good and all, but was it where it ended until about 2010 or so when I went to a garage sale of all places. I found every single other Game Boy game except for 5 because, well, 5's rare, but I'll get to that later. The guy was like, well, how much you want from it? I was like, I don't know, $10. And he did it. I got all of them, as I said, except for 5, 2, 3, 4, Extreme, and Extreme 2. So I guess we'll just keep going down the list. Now, Mega Man 2 on the Game Boy. Now, Mega Man 2 on the NES is by far everyone's favorite, except for me, actually. I'm more of a fan of 6, you know, as to which my favorite NES game is, but that's besides the point. Mega Man 2 on the Game Boy is not nearly as good as Mega Man 2 on the NES. First things first, the soundtrack. Now, the first Mega Man on Game Boy had a pretty good soundtrack, especially considering it was on the Game Boy. It sounded very akin to the NES Mega Man 1, and the original tunes were quite good as well. The music in this game sounds like a dying cat. I would equate this to death. Gameplay wise, the levels aren't as good as the first one, though it's still very much playable. And it has some actually really interesting levels towards the end where it's like some MC Escher art-esque backgrounds and whatnot. It's actually a pretty cool game, and apparently Dr. Wily has a time machine and whatnot in this one. It's a pretty crazy little game. I highly recommend if you do play this one, because it is cheap, wear headphones and listen to like some music off your iPhone or something, because the soundtrack in this game is garbage. Mega Man 3. What do I think of Mega Man 3? Now, Mega Man 3 is actually my least favorite. Well, you know how I said Mega Man 1 was... I'm not fixing that. You know how I said Mega Man 1 was very satisfying to play despite how difficult it was? This one was the opposite for me. I don't know why, but it seemed cheap. The difficulty there was just for the sake of being difficult instead of an actual challenge. Not all is bad in Mega Man 3. Like in Mega Man 1, which had bosses from Mega Man 1, 2 on the NES, and Mega Man 2, which had bosses from Mega Man 2 and 3 on the NES, this one has bosses from Mega Man 3 and 4 on the NES, and honestly, the music's very good, the stages look authentic, the difficulty feels more like something from a bad fan game than from an actual Capcom Mega Man game. I'd honestly probably pass on that one, especially if you have a chance to pick up Mega Man 4. Now, what's very interesting about Mega Man 4 on the Game Boy is that for many years this was my favorite Mega Man game of all time. I absolutely love this game. Like the previous games, it takes two sets of bosses from two different games, in this case Mega Man 4 and Mega Man 5, and just puts them all in the same game. But it did so much more in this game. I don't know what the plots are on any of these except for 2, which is that weird time travel thing, except for Dr. Wily's evil, stop him. 4 had anime cutscenes in it, like anime style graphic cutscenes, and it was really cool. It's like there's this one scene towards the end where, you know, you're going towards the final boss and Mega Man's jumping through Dr. Wily's space fortress as this giant machine is just rising, and sorry for the spoiler by the way, but it's just so cool. The gameplay is fantastic, the music's fantastic, and actually introduced a shop feature which was first seen in the console games in Mega Man 7, continued all the way through Mega Man 10, and hopefully will continue if Capcom makes more games. Please make more games. This game is fantastic. I cannot rave enough about it. It's a fantastic game. What was also very interesting about Mega Man 4 though is it's the one that felt the most like an NES adventure. The other games, with the exception of 3, were fun distractions. This game was less of a distraction, felt more like a full-blown adventure. Finally, we come to Mega Man 5 on the Game Boy. The interesting thing about Mega Man 5 on the Game Boy, it's not a cheap game. In fact, it's an incredibly rare game. I've seen it regularly go for like over $80, and honestly, when I went to buying it, I just downloaded 3DS Virtual Console and then eventually picked up the Japanese version called Rockman World 5, because that's what these were called in Japan, Rockman World 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for like $10 or something. $10 is still more than what I usually pay for a Game Boy game. Now, what do I think of Mega Man 5? Honestly, I didn't get to play this game until actually about last year. And it's actually my favorite in the series now, no joke. Honestly, as far as regular Mega Man games go, like the series as a whole, the only games I like more are Mega Man 6 and Mega Man X. This game's wonderful. Now, instead of taking 2 sets of Robot Masters from NES games, introduce a new set of planet-themed robots called the Star Droids, who apparently have some beef with Mega Man in the world, so they're going to destroy it, and Dr. Wily's involved, as you'd imagine, because hey, it's Mega Man, he's always involved. The concept of it's really cool. Now, Mega Man in every single game has his dog Rush. However, continuing with this string of musical puns, Mega Man 5 introduces Tango, which is a cat which can roll into things, like some sort of cat version of Sonic the Hedgehog, and that's cool. The shop returns, there's items to collect within the stages, like little secret items, and it's an overall very solid game that stands on its own and does its own thing. The anime graphics aren't as prevalent, like anime cutscenes aren't as prevalent as they were in Mega Man 4, though they are still here. And it is a very satisfying game to play. If you're willing to pay the price, I would say Mega Man 5 on the Game Boy is definitely worth it. If not, I'd honestly go with Mega Man 4. Now, the Mega Man X series was also very popular. They came out in 2000 with Mega Man Xtreme. Now, what's cool about Mega Man Xtreme is it kind of does the Mega Man Classic or Mega Man World series thing where it takes bosses from Mega Man X1, X2, and it just puts them on there. The reasoning it gives for this is that Mega Man X and Zero have been sucked into a mother computer which contains the memories and data of their past foes, and they have to go stop them before it destroys the world and stuff, and as you can imagine, Sigma's involved and whatnot because it's a Mega Man X game. And it's really fun. What's kind of weird as a replay value thing, but I kind of like, is that you have to beat the game on multiple difficulties to get the true ending. But the thing is, depending on the difficulty, there's different bosses you'll face. It's still cool though. It's weird how they do that, but I think it's cool. But it's even further improved on in Mega Man Xtreme 2. Mega Man Xtreme 2, I feel like, is kind of a love letter to hardcore Mega Man X fans. First off, Iris, who appeared in Mega Man X4 and was subsequently killed off, appears in this, even though this game came out afterwards.
What? What am I fighting for?
It's set between X3 and X4, so it makes sense. What's really cool is Zero is playable in this one, Mega Man's trusty boo-blighted friend. And not only that, but there's even more bosses, more difficulties, what the plot is there's this thing called the Soul Eraser, which goes around erasing the souls out of Reploid robots and pretty much makes them hollow, lifeless shells, and it's just really cool. Once again, there's the weird difficulty thing. There's a boss time attack mode. I'd highly recommend the Mega Man Xtreme games, especially Xtreme 2. Now, that's all the official Mega Man games that came out on the Game Boy. But I have something special just for you, because I like you people. This right here is called Mega Man DX6. As you can see, it's an authentic game from Hong Kong. Now, what's the story behind Mega Man DX6? Well, from my trusty friend, the internet, this is actually a reskin of an unlicensed game from China called Zouk Heroes Z, which came out somewhere around 2004 2005. And I actually picked this up off eBay for like $6. Now, what's the story of Zouk Heroes Z? Well, before I get into the story, I should probably say it's a flat-out Mega Man clone, but it's a weird Mega Man clone. It actually apparently originally came with an instruction pamphlet, so here's the story straight from that. Zouk is a policeman for a city. One day, Dr. Mitt deployed his evil army of robots to advance on city. Zouk tried to stop the robot, but it ends up getting shot and is in critical condition. With his life at risk, Dr. Meki chooses him for a robotic human project, thus giving him new life. Continuing his fight to protect peace, Zouk Hero is then born. As someone who is a fan of classic literature and the great plays and works of the past, this speaks to my heart. It's a heart-wrenching story. Now, the actual company that made this is called Vast Fame, and apparently Vast Fame had a thing for Mega Man because this game is a complete rip-off of Mega Man. It makes sense why they rebranded it as a Mega Man game. You start off and there's 6 stages, followed by fortress stages. I don't really know what's happening in the cutscenes because it's in Moon language. On the box art, there's Mega Man X and Zero, and they appear in the title screen, and that's all they appear on. Apparently it has a sequel, but all I know is about said sequel is that it exists. I can't find any information about it. So there you go, that's the game that in its entirety is known as Zouk Heroes Z Mega Man DX6. It just rolls off the tongue. So anyways, that's Mega Man on the Game Boy, ladies and gentlemen. What's your favorite Mega Man game? What do you think? Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'd like to give special thanks to Sir Jordanius on OC Remix because I did use one of his pieces in this video. I'd also like to give credit to my good friend Alex for creating the logo that was featured here. And I would like to give thanks to you, dear subscribers, for watching this. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to check out Let's Talk About Games, our Let's Play channel, Team Nameless, and our other stuff we play episodes. I am just whoring my own channel out right now. Isn't that wonderful? See you next time, ladies and gentlemen.